Welcome to Magical Books for Kids, a podcast sponsored by Magic Everywhere, Inc., a company based in Florida. Hosted by Michael John Sullivan, this is your place to hear the very best children's stories and an opportunity to get to know your favorite authors. Now, here is Michael John Sullivan.
Welcome to Magical Books for Kids. I'm Michael John Sullivan. Thanks so much for joining us on our weekly podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Magic Everywhere Incorporated, a company based in Kissimmee, Florida. On our show today is Debra Krol. She is a British Columbia registered music teacher who specializes in teaching music to babies, toddlers, and preschoolers. She is also a children's songwriter and author. Miss Deb enjoys camping with her husband, kids, and Daisy Dog. She loves playing piano, ukulele, guitar, and most of all, singing and drawing with all her little friends. She has 5 books right now. It's a wonderful series called Tiny Tinklestown. Deb, thanks so much for joining us here on Magical Books for Kids. You're quite a talented person. That's all I can say, reading through and looking at your books, as well as looking at your YouTube channel and all the free resources that you give. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Michael, for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, first of all, what were some of your favorite childhood books? Any particular book that inspired you to be the person you are right now?
You know, if I remember the most important book in my childhood, it's one that I can't even remember the title of. It was something like Don't Cry Over Spilled Milk. It was
Right.
about a little girl who opened up the fridge and got the milk out. And of course, it spilled and she was crying. And I could really identify with that book because I cried a lot when I was a child. I was very sensitive. And this book just really spoke to me how life goes on. You know, it's not really a big deal if you spill the milk. You just keep going and try your best.
That's true. And I guess that's how that phrase came about. Why cry over spilled milk? You know, and we've all spilled milk, of course, especially as a child. We all spilled milk. So that's a particular book that, while you don't remember the title, it's something that resonated with you throughout your life. Now, you mentioned that you've been a music teacher for 25 years. What inspired you to become a music teacher?
Well, that's a pretty funny story. I actually wanted to take gymnastics.
Okay, it's all
But
right.
there was no room in gymnastics. I was on this forever wait list. And my mom said to me, "Hey, Deborah, maybe we should pick something else for you to try. How about you try piano?" My grandpa had picked up a little organ at a garage sale, and I had fooled around with it for a while. And that is how she came up with the idea. She knew I'd sit there for hours and play on this little organ that I think he paid about $5 for. And I thought, okay, sure, why not? So I tried it out. And ever since then, I mean, I've been playing the piano ever since.
You know, there's another saying, good things come to people who are patient and wait. And that probably just happened to you at a very early age. Thank goodness to your mom, right? Your mom was sort of like steered you in that particular direction. So instead of jumping on beams, high beams, or doing the gymnastics thing, you were making children happy through your words and your singing and your books.
Yes, it's so funny when I look back now at the position that I'm in now, and I think to those moments of when I first started playing the piano and my first book report that I had to do at school. I dragged my piano to my classroom and I wrote a song about a book that I had read. And I remember it was one of those gigantic books that you sit on the floor and the pages are so, so big. Um, and I made this song. It was about a fish, and I can't remember anything else. But now that I'm doing so many songs for my books and for other authors' books, I look back at that and I think, wow, that was a pivotal moment that I never actually appreciated at that time. And it was only about 6 months ago that it dawned on me, hey, wait a minute, this is how it all began.
You know, it's interesting. I've written 7 novels. And I remember telling my partner, my business partner, about this. When my first book was bought by Simon and Schuster, you know, I didn't take the time to celebrate it, or I didn't take the time to really appreciate that particular moment, because as many authors would love to get published by a big publishing company. And to me, it was like, all right, now I'm on to the next stage. And we kind of like lose perspective on what we're actually producing and the impact you're making. And when I look at your YouTube channel and I look at all the things that you do, you're the singing and how you're influencing kids with music and the books that you write, sometimes you just have to sit back and say, you know what, I've done quite a bit, you know, and it's okay to celebrate yourself because you work so hard. Every author out there works hard, you know, and I'm sure that's probably you come to those points in your life where you're saying, I can appreciate what I'm doing. Have you gotten to that point where at least you can appreciate all the stuff, all the materials that you're producing?
Yeah, especially now that I've created a collection. The first book, there was a really big celebratory moment, just knowing, wow, I did this and I never thought that it was possible. I never thought that I would ever write a book. And I mean, really, it was COVID who pushed me in this direction, you know, just the uncertainty of my business and not knowing what my next step would be. Well, now I know my next step and I know each step thereafter. And I'm just really excited about these new opportunities.
Now you're in Canada, so are the Canadians still in lockdown at this juncture?
Well, you know, it's it's very different in different parts of the country. I'm on the West Coast. Yeah, we are still very locked down. We can't go and visit at other people's homes. We can only socialize within our own families. We can now go to the park with groups of a maximum of 10. So there are a lot of restrictions. Um, Kids are in school. They're not online learning anymore. So that's great. But yeah, there's still a lot of restrictions here.
Okay, but as you said, you took advantage of, or at least the time to write books and everything. And that was one of the things I did too, is that I guess our choices were like a year ago here in the States. I could either curl up like a ball, you know what I'm saying, and like put the blankets over my head, or get to work on my next novel, get to work on the next animation series. And I think that's what I did. And I think a lot of authors did that. So kudos to you for doing that. So let's talk about your series, the Tiny Tinklestown. Tell me, how did that start? What are the books in the series? Because I believe there's 5. It seems like you got more books coming out. I was looking at your website and it was showing that there was more books coming this way. You have bilingual books coming as well. So why don't you just first take us through the process of like, where did this idea come from?
Okay, so yes, I have plans for many books. This series is definitely going to be growing. My dream is to make it 1 year's worth of musical storybook curriculum for teachers and parents. So the idea is to have a kind of a new storybook every couple of weeks. My books aren't something that you read once and that you put down. There's all sorts of things to experience and to find within each book. Yes, the series is called Tiny Tinkle's Little Musicians series. And the first book is called Tiny Tinkle's Town, and it introduces all the characters in the town and the silly songs that they sing. It's very playful. It has all kinds of free online resources that you don't even need to purchase the book to enjoy. The second book in the series is called Yummy in My Tummy. And it kind of explores how each character is very different and likes to eat different things. My favorite part about Yummy in My Tummy is the illustrations leave like a lunchbox that is just a lunchbox. You can't see what's inside. So it's the words that tell you what each character is eating. So that way, when parents and teachers tell the story, they have the ability to improvise what foods are being eaten. So I think that's kind of a neat idea of that. There's also a really fabulous song called Yummy in My Tummy that I wrote to go with the book. Actually, I wrote it probably 4 or 5 months before I wrote the book in one of the preschool classes that I teach at.
Right.
Often they're having their snack time before music. And so we would sing this little yummy in my tummy song, and I would go through the tables and I'd say, "Oh, what are you eating today?" And then we'd sing about what they were eating. And so it was like super
Well,
fun.
you have a lovely voice. Are you brave enough to sing a little bit of the yummy in my tummy? Because now you're making me hungry in my tummy. You
You
know?
hungry? I wish I had my guitar with me. I don't have it right now sitting in front of me, but it goes, I'll sing it a cappella. Here we go.
Okay.
Yummy in my tummy, 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 yummy in my tummy. Mm, good. And let's see, Michael, what are you eating today?
Well, I'm hoping to have a slice of pizza.
Oh,
My
pizza
favorite
in
pizza.
my
Yes.
tummy.
I
Pizza
love
in
that.
my tummy, pizza in 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 my tummy. Mm, good.
Well, I mean, as most, this is audio, of course, so people can't see me going back and forth. Thank goodness, probably, because I looked like I was doing the Elaine dance from Seinfeld. You know, but yes, I was moving to that. I love that, and I love how you can improvise the different foods. That is a very clever idea. So
Super fun. My
yeah.
songs are all super simple. And the
Mm.
reason why I make them super simple is because we want to be able to wiggle and dance around and improvise with each song so that every child can identify with the music. It can really become part of them. And then they can sing it out of the blue nowhere. All of a sudden, oh, milk in my tummy, milk in my tummy, cookies in my tummy. I don't know. So
That's great because I'm thinking, oh man, I'm thinking about all these marketing ideas for you. First of all, I'm thinking, boy, once the pandemic ends, you can go out to classes and take your guitar and introduce your book and sing the songs and have the kids put what they want in their lunchbox. There's
it's
all
so
sorts
much
of
fun.
things. Yeah, you can have so much fun with this. It's like, man, that's a lot of fun. So that was the second book, Yummy in My Tummy. What's the third, fourth, and
The
fifth
third
books?
third book is called Chugga Chugga Woo Woo, and of course, it's a train book. Every kid loves train books,
That's right.
and of course, an awesome little train song to go along with it. Kids can explore with the two black keys. There's actually some music notation in this book, so they can kind of follow along with their fingers. It's a very comical kind of story, and it introduces the musical alphabet. Do you know what the musical alphabet is, Michael?
Well, I think I sang it as a kid. A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P
Oh,
Q R
yeah.
S T
You
U
know what?
V W X
Actually,
Y and Z. Now you know your ABC. You know what? It was probably from watching Barney with my kids when they were very young, and they used to sing all these different jingles, and they stuck in my head. My kids are like in their 20s now, right? But they're
yes.
still in my head from those days. So,
Oh, now you know how I feel. You know what? The musical alphabet, though, is much shorter. It only goes to G and then it
oh,
starts over and over again.
oh,
Yeah.
please.
So see,
Well,
look, I taught you something today, Michael.
why don't you give a version of the to the G alphabet song? Go ahead.
Okay, so let's go like this. Let me just I'm just gonna flip to a page here.
That's
Um,
okay.
yeah, I don't know if that's really gonna work for me to sing chugga chugga woo woo chugga chugga woo woo chugga chugga woo woo. A B C D E F G A B C D E F G A B C D E F G A B C D E F G chugga chugga woo woo chugga chugga woo woo chugga chugga woo woo.
Oh, that's great. Bravo. I'm sorry, but that's brilliant. I
And
love it.
again, lots of repetition. And you can also use that as call and response. So, the parent or the teacher sings A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then the child sings and repeats A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So it's very catchy and it just teaches itself. It's really super fun.
Now, do you test these songs on your kids? I mean, I don't know how old your kids are, but I mean, do you actually test them on them or?
Well, personally, my biological children
Mhm.
are 17 and 18 and a half. So
Okay. Okay.
they tend to not really enjoy me singing, although I do it all day.
Oh, okay.
But I also call all of my students my kids as well. So my other
True.
kids, my music kids, yes, I totally test everything out in my preschool that I'm teaching. And right now I only have one preschool because of the regulations. I haven't gotten back in some
Yeah.
other events that I do. But
All right.
yeah, they're all tried, tested, and true. You got it.
Okay. So fourth and fifth books, what are those books about?
The fourth and fifth books are actually activity books.
Mm,
They're also full color, well, except for the parts that you get to color in. I
yeah.
wanted to make them just as engaging as I could for the little ones. And these ones are called Little Composers, Activity Book 1 and Activity Book 2.
Mhm.
So inside the activity books are all kinds of concepts where children need to really internalize. So they have all kinds of little songs for almost each page spread. I went a little crazy, but all the songs and music and coloring, everything just goes along so well in Keys to Learning. So, like again, the kids can identify with the music and the characters and just really fall in love with learning music.
That's great. I mean, to me, that's what makes it so wonderful that you can reach the kids, and the lyrics are simple and they're easy to remember. Like the whole ABCD song that I've remembered back from the days of like the 1990s when my kids were growing up and everything like that. So that's great. So that particular series. Now you mentioned that they're going to go bilingual as well. When is that happening, or has it happened?
It is almost about to happen. Wow, it is hard to do a bilingual book.
Yeah, I was
I
going to
never
say, what was the process for that, right? I mean,
total surprise. I mean, hey, I'm a new author. My first book was published in December 2020, and
yeah.
it's only May 2021. So
So since then, you've had 5 books already published. You're going bilingual. You sing songs and you create songs for authors. I mean, my goodness, where do you find the time? Jeez.
I don't know. In my sleep, apparently.
All right. So when did the bilingual books come out? I saw something on your website too, something coming out in June as well. So why don't you talk about your future projects or your future books that are coming out?
So later, probably within the next 2 weeks, you're going to see the first bilingual version of Tiny Tinklestown. That's book 1. So
Mhm.
it'll be Spanish and English, and it has all the same resources as the English version. Then the next book that will come out will be Chugga Chugga Woo Woo in the Spanish English bilingual version. And then upcoming, I have 2 little performers books. So these are new books to this series where the readers get to play along with the music. So they're going to be activity style where there's a lot of coloring in to really reinforce the concepts that are being taught about which note is being played when and how long to hold it.
Clever, very clever. I love that. I love that idea with the
And then I
colors.
have, oh, it's so much fun. There's a lot of music methods out there that are based on colors.
Hmm.
And so I really wanted to capture that. I think you can really see from the 5 books that I have in my series that I am very visual.
Hmm.
I think a really important part of a child's learning is to be able to imagine beyond words and just really internalize. We're feeling the beat, we're imagining where the notes are going high and low, we're imagining things being short and long, and all those things can be visualized. Not just on a piece of paper, but in your mind, even when you close your eyes. And that's just what I'm trying to capture with this whole series. And then I'll have one more storybook I'm hoping to get out before June. And that one is called Wiggle, Wiggle, Jiggle, Jiggle. And it's all about the wiggle friends, which are our fingers.
No, great,
So,
great.
yeah.
So it's also, it's, as you mentioned, it's so visual. Now you mentioned Teachers Pay Teachers cause and the YouTube cause, and that's something that you provide so much free content for people to enjoy without even purchasing the books. Well, no publisher wants to hear that, to be honest with you.
No.
But that's a very noble and wonderful thing to share with people. So why don't you speak about that, helping teachers as well as parents with your free resources?
I really believe in paying things forward. I am a teacher and I have learned so much from other teachers. Probably about 15 years ago, I started searching on the internet for all kinds of resources that other teachers had created. And I found so many that really helped me as a newer teacher to really be able to meet the needs of my young students. So I thought that this was something that was very important to me to give back to the teaching community, to support them and to support parents, because a lot of parents have never taken music lessons and they want their children to learn, but it's hard for them because they don't understand. So they're afraid to even open up a music book. And I don't want that. In the perfect world, everybody learns music. And I really do believe, and I've said this for probably decades now, that every child should have the right to learn music. For so many people, it's something that they can't afford, and so it never happens. And I want to stop that. So teacherspayteachers.com is what it's called. You can go there and you can look up the Tiny Tinkles page, and I have, I don't know, maybe like 80 or 100 free pages of downloads that
That's
you
wonderful.
can print out. My YouTube channel is filled with all kinds of content. I've recently just started a little puppetry show, and now I must warn you, I am learning puppetry.
That's okay. You're trying new things. That's what creative people do all the time. Wow, that's great.
Absolutely. And then
Yeah.
there's also like clap and play along videos. They're kind of like a cartoon style, so you can clap with the music, and that's part of the visualization process.
Yeah,
There's
you
also
made you
storybook read
mentioned
along.
yeah, you
Yeah.
mentioned music, how important it is to learn. I didn't have that I didn't have that during. We basically were given a flute, I think, in like the fourth grade or something like that,
A
and it was like
recorder, probably.
it was a recorder. That's what it was. It was like these little plastic things you got. You paid like $5 for it or whatever. That was the extent of my music. When our daughters grew up, we grew up on Long Island, and we were in a high school or an area, a town called Northport. They had like the biggest band in New York State. They had like 300 plus kids that were in the band. My daughters, one daughter played violin, the other daughter played the flute, the real flute, you know. And it was wonderful to see them develop their musical schools. And some of the most wonderful moments is me sitting on the couch and my daughter's upstairs practicing the flute. It was just like the most beautiful sound in the world, knowing that our daughter loved music and was learning music and when it was in this band and they went to all these different places. They marched down Main Street at Disney World. They did all these wonderful things and how the camaraderie of the people in the band and everything. I wish I had gone through that. I didn't. That's one thing I wish I had gone through. So when you mention music, I wish there was a Deb Krol in my life that would have influenced or inspired me. So you have to know that you're inspiring thousands and thousands of children.
It's so wonderful to think that, just to imagine that people are reading my books and listening to my songs and singing along. It's truly a wonderful thing. I should really make a confession, that I was like an extremely shy child. I was the one who would sit in the back of the room. I was the one
Mhm.
crying. I was the one hiding under the table. I am a preschool dropout. My mom took me out of preschool. I don't even know how many days I lasted. I was really scared of
Mhm.
confrontation and speaking with people. And there was no reason behind it. I was just very sensitive. And I still am that sensitive person inside, even though, I mean, I'm hoping I'm covering that up today, but like my toes are sweating right now. My
Oh
heart is
no,
fluttering.
you're talking to the choir here because when you mentioned that you were shy, I used to always sit in the back of the classroom. I didn't
Yeah,
want to be called. I didn't want to be called on by the teacher. I just wanted to be left alone because I was afraid of making mistakes. I was afraid of, failing and everything.
totally. My
Yeah.
biggest mantra, how do you say that? Mantra?
Mm-hmm.
In my series is to sing your own song. And part of that comes from, well, we're all different. We all have a song that's worthy of singing. And just be appreciative that it's okay to sing your song. It's okay to
Right.
share it. Even if people don't like it, it doesn't matter. It's your song. You can just be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really important message. And I hope that I can help some kids that are shy like me. I know I had them in my music studio, and it took a while to break them. Um, and I don't mean break them, but break
I
them
know what you're
being
saying.
shy.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
That they would come to the circle and they started singing, and it was just the most wonderful moment. And I should mention too, there's that little saying, like, you stick a dozen people in a room that don't speak the same language, and what do? Nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you stick a dozen musicians in
Mm-hmm.
the same room, even though they don't speak the language, what do? They make music.
It's
Everybody speaks
universal.
the
Yeah.
language of music. So I think, and that's why I just so strongly believe that every child should have that experience of music, because it is just such a wonderful feeling. It makes you happy. It comforts you when you're sad. It's just always there. You can always enjoy it in your head, and nobody else has to listen to it.
Right. I mean, fear of failure is real. I mean, and it takes a while too. I remember when I wrote my first book for Simon and Schuster, and the book came out, and I remember reading the reviews. There could be 20 great reviews, but the one bad review, I spent weeks and weeks and weeks focusing on it, and it like affects you.
It does, yeah.
Not everybody is going to love what you do, but if you find one person that loves what you do, you've made an impact, and that's, to me, that's the way you have to look at what we do with our books, with our music, whatever, anything that you do, trying to reach the public or anybody in that sense, whether it's relationships, friendships, or anything like that. So how do people find? And you're on YouTube. Okay, you mentioned the pay for teachers, payteachers.com, where they can find your resources. Where do they find you and want to buy your books and give their children a wonderful education as far as music is concerned? Where would they find you?
So the best place to find me is at my website, www.tinytinkles.com.
Okay.
My books are all for sale on Amazon. The links are all on my website. So everything's on my website. You can find it from there.
Right.
Pretty much on every social media handle, I'm Tiny Tinkles or Tiny Tinkles Music Studio.
Right. And if people want to know how to spell your last name, it's Krol. It's Debra Krol, Deb for short. And she is a registered music teacher who sings. Authors out there, she'll make a song for you for your book. Believe me, I can tell you, with our Sock Kids song, that made our Sock Kids animation or our series much better when you have a song to relate to. She does that as well. So you can you can reach her at tinytinkles.com. And Debra, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We got to have you back and sing some more, to be honest with you. So
Absolutely.
if you can get me to move, during a podcast, you can get anybody to move. So thank you again for joining us. And I'm Michael John Sullivan. Joining us next week again for another edition of Magical Books for Kids podcast, sponsored by Magic Everywhere Incorporated, a company based in Kissimmee, Florida. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Magical Books for Kids, a podcast sponsored by Magic Everywhere INC, a company based in Florida, hosted by Michael John Sullivan. This is your place to hear the very best children's stories and an opportunity to get to know your favorite authors. Join us for another fun storytelling podcast next week.